this thing live anymore. Swear to God. So we're not getting the wonderful Jamaican intro, the Rastafarian intro that Dio previewed for me and I wanted, but he's unwilling to go forward with. On that note, welcome to the MMA Vivisection for Invicta FC 21. Megan Anderson versus Charmaine Tweet for the interim
Megan
title.
Megan, say it properly, Zane.
Megan?
Yes.
Jesus, look, I have enough trouble with these Brazilians, and with now we're gonna get like we're getting some like French fighters and all this crapping going on in here. Her name's Megan.
You will put respect on her name, sir. This is what's going to happen in 2017, all right? You got to own that. We can live with Chelsea Bailey, or you can live with this, all right?
Yeah.
That's how it is.
Okay, Megan Anderson.
There we go. Thank you very much.
Versus Charmaine Tweet.
I like that.
And they are fighting for the interim Invicta featherweight title because Cyborg is probably not going to fight in Invicta again for a long time.
Yeah.
If ever again.
Cyborg. We'll probably talk about that at the end, but she fucked herself over bad.
He did. I am joined by Dio, former PE.
Well, I guess you could say current because I have moderating powers again if I want.
Okay.
You shouldn't have let it out the bag. Yet.
Resurrected, risen like a phoenix from the ashes. Mod.
Oh, no, I'm going to show up in the comment section one day and just it's going to be awful. Just cause trouble and be like, Nate, I don't want to be a mod anymore. Thanks very much.
And Vic, who is just our resident whipping boy.
Yes. That's okay. I'm comfortable with that role at this point. I mean, there's not much else you can do. Seriously.
Yeah. And we're here to talk about Invicta FC 21, which is a card of familiar faces, as has become the way with Invicta. Even if it's not the biggest, most notable name fight card you've ever seen in your life, they are putting together fights full of familiar women fighters who have a pretty good record of success at this point.
Yeah, and it's consistent. This is the thing. This is why women's mixed martial arts has progressed so quickly. You have, even though Invicta's not the only place where women fight, there is actually a place for women to fight on a regular basis. And before, back in the day with men, when okay, he's fighting in Hawaii and then he's going to go fight in Japan and then he's going to go fight in Brazil and then he's going to go fight in Canada and then he's going to go fight in Iowa, and all this stuff is just spread. Now you just have one streamlined. So
and it prevents it gives a better support too than that random thing where you got Bellator and World Series of Fighting out there where it'll be like, oh, we've got one woman's bout on this card, and that's our women's division is one fight every 3 months,
right?
A special attraction bout. This is actually a consistent place, and the cards are consistent. They've done a good job going out and farming whatever talent they can get for good fight cards, good consistent cards. And we're going to be giving all the odds, picks, all that good stuff as usual. Any thoughts before we dive in, Vic, on this card in general?
Yeah, first off, reminder, this is not tonight. This is going to be tomorrow, Saturday. So that's very, very important. Saturday at 8 o'clock Eastern Time. Also, Fight Pass is free this weekend. So if you didn't have Fight Pass or you just, hesitant to sign up or whatnot, it's probably worth it for Invicta and a few of the other things that are out there. But even if you don't, at least check out this event. It'll definitely be worth your time.
Yeah, I literally just signed back on just to get Invicta fights, and then I signed back out.
And again, I mean, I mentioned this I think yesterday on Twitter that we're used to these cards being sort of slept on and kind of going under the radar, but this one is criminally so. This one, we got some names. We've only had 3 fighters on this card that we haven't seen fight under the Invicta banner. So right. All these people are, all these matchups are really set up in a way that they're very, very likely to deliver on the action front. So should be good, and some divisional relevance as well.
Yeah, it's I believe what's the name who fought Leslie Smith a couple of times in Invicta is their matchmaker now full time.
Caitlin Young.
Yeah, Caitlin Young.
Yeah.
Yes.
She is now there doing all their matchmaking duties. So this is all down to her.
Sure.
On that note, we're going to dive right into a flyweight bout opening the card between Rachel Ostovich and Christine Feria. I remember Ostovich because of her Wonder Woman costume and not a lot else. Dio, what are your thoughts on this fight?
This is a fight for Ostovich to get back on the horse. That's about as Ostovich is very much let's say it's like Invicta is very much in need of building stars, and like certain fighters have star quality, and Ostovich is one of them. Could, if she gets everything together, like she could be one of the marquee stars that they have. And, she's had some pretty tough outs in the past few fights against Andrea Lee. She still won against Ariel Beck in the last fight, but, she hasn't had that one moment where it's like, this is Rachel Ostovich. She is the future yet. And this is what they're setting up with this fight, because this is her opponent's pro debut.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Even though I believe she has a winning record on the amateur circuit, that's still that's pretty tough.
Yeah. Vic, what are your thoughts?
Well, yeah, I mean, it does seem very clearly that Ostovich not only has the experience advantage, but, she does seem to be like the person that is I don't want to say that they're betting on her to win necessarily, but it's one of those situations, much like the Scott Coker booking. Look, we're going to put an established person in here against someone who's lesser established. If the underdog wins, it's a massive boon for them. It's big, big news if that happens, and they start to treat them in a different manner. But it's really looking like more or less trying to get Ostovich a fight that's a little more manageable. She did have that recent win against Ariel Beck, who's a pretty good striker, very technical. And she does have a 5-0 record as an amateur, 3-2 as a pro. Now, Feria, she is 3-1 as an amateur. The problem is that she's a very, very heavy-handed hitter. She's got 2 TKO wins that are both in the first round. I believe they're both also under a minute. And she also beat regional talent Chrissy Lopez, who's been kind of bouncing back and forth a bit. That was a while ago. But she's got some upside there. As a striker, she does look pretty crisp and technical, and she can crack. So don't expect this to be easy at all for Ostovich, despite what the numbers may look like.
All right. I will also note, though, that the Coker strategy is that you give somebody a build-back fight, and if they lose that, you don't actually build the person that beat them. You just leave them in their role as building other talent, and you then feed another low-level talent to the guy that was supposed to win. Or you run it back again, like we're seeing with Time and Glow versus we saw with Time and Glow versus what's his name?
Well, they got by on that one because of the weight thing too. That was a cute.
But that's more the classic Coker strategy. Is if you get the upset, you just book the fight again.
Yeah. It's like, God damn it, run that shit back.
Yeah. So there are no odds on that fight. I lied when I said we'd have odds for all the fights. We have odds for most of the fights. No odds on that one. That brings us to a strawweight bout between Amy Montenegro and Celine Haga. What are your thoughts on this, Vic?
Well, here's the thing with Celine Haga. She is right now one of the best and most fun comeback stories that we've seen in a while. You're talking about somebody who started her MMA career at 1-11, okay, and she's fought her way back, and now she's at a point where her current record is 10-13. Again, the numbers don't look good, but you look at how she started, and the way she's doing it too, because she's currently on a 4-fight win streak. All of them have been submissions. She's really, really looking fantastic. She's doing great work. Her striking is a lot cleaner. Her movement is a lot better. Her ability to work her takedowns has definitely been improved, but it's really her submission game on the ground. Even if she's not actively hunting for the submission, she's at least getting in better position to strike and break her opponent down. So this is really worth watching, especially considering the time off that Montenegro has had. Montenegro's 7-2 as a pro, and she's been out of the game since her last fight was actually on The Ultimate Fighter way back in January of last year, where she tried to go through that whole thing. So, I'm not sure where her where her talent is right now, I mean,
It's only a year. It's not that long.
it's been a year, but you know what? It's a matter of consistency because she has. Well, I mean, she hasn't been that inconsistent with her fights. I shouldn't say that.
She's been fighting consistently since 2013.
She has. She has. You're right, but I don't know, man. I mean, this might be. I kind of look at this as a situation where Montenegro might be overpowered by how Celine Haga's approach usually plays out. So I kind of think that her style really plays right into Haga's hands.
Yep. Dio, is that your thought here?
Yeah, it's very similar. Celine Haga, so this is one of the things that you have to look at, with not only a lot of women's records, but Japanese female fighters records, because what happened to Celine Haga was Japan. And this is what Japan does. Japan, there is no rhyme or reason or, okay, let's match a good person against another good person. It's well, we're going to have housewife versus judo expert.
Oh, Jesus.
And that's what her record, the beginning portion, that 11 fight, or first when she was 11-1, she was on a 7-fight losing streak after her first win. So, but her comeback has been, it's up there with Roxanne Modafferi's as far as career turnarounds. Once you actually finally have a actual camp, and this was the thing, she didn't have a real camp, so she would go to, like we said before, in Japan, you go to one place to train one aspect, another place to train another aspect, and another place to. So there was she had no core group actually helping her with proper cornering and all that stuff. Once she actually got into a decent camp, that's when everything completely changed for her. So Montenegro definitely does play right into Haga's hands. She's not gonna get blown out of the water or anything like that, but I am going with Haga on this one.
All right. Do we have odds on that? We do not. So I'm moving right along.
Oh, well.
I'm trying. We'll have odds soon.
You do what you can. You do what you can. It's all good.
Next up, a flyweight bout. Andrea KGB Lee versus Jenny Liu. Dio, what are your thoughts on this fight?
Andrea Lee is going to wash Jenny Liu. Because it used to be Jenny Liu Shriver. I guess she got divorced. Yeah. So on the feet, there aren't very many people that can really stand with Andrea Lee. The fact that Roxanne Modafferi was able to says a lot about how far Modafferi came. But yeah, I don't see this really going to the ground much. Andrea Lee is just a monster of an athlete, and I think she's just going to leave us like Jenny Liu in a smoking crater in the middle of the octagon. Circle, whatever the cage is.
Vic, what are your thoughts? Are you as definitive as Dio?
No, I'm not. No, come on, seriously. Look at that guy. No, absolutely not. All right, here's the situation with this. Now, Lee is a much more complete and well-rounded and technical striker. Definitely much more of a kickboxing base, whereas Jenny Liu is much more. She also has something of a kickboxing base, but she's much more of a puncher. Problem is she hits pretty hard, and her timing is also really good. But the thing is that Lee's style, I think, is enough to really give her fits, work combinations going, high and low, attacking legs frequently early, and then being able to sort of pick her apart from the outside. If eventually the fight goes down to the ground, I mean, Lee is pretty savvy with her, at least submission attempts. But I do think that Liu is also, she's got more of that strong top game that really is able to suffocate and nullify that. So I don't really see Lee putting too many, throwing triangles up from her back if need be. I don't really see that as a scenario that's likely to happen. So, I mean, if it goes to the ground, then I'm going to have to say Liu, but right now smart money is going to have to be on Lee. I think it's going to be one of those bouts that ends up in a decision, but still be a fun fight nonetheless.
Yep. I have to say, I have serious Sage Northcutt vibes off Andrea Lee. In that she came, she looked like this amazing prospect when she came out, when she beat Shannon Sin.
Right.
And since then, she's not bad, But she has some major holes in her game that get covered up with how athletic she is. People are like, "Oh, she's hot and she's athletic. Chick's gonna be fire." It's like she did get outboxed by Roxanne Modafferi.
But it's K1 Modafferi though.
Still, she did.
That also stems mostly from Modafferi's style being so disruptive and janky. And I mean, really, how was she going to prepare for that when she's got because you got to remember she takes kickboxing bouts on the side too. So you're not just doing MMA, so you're not really prepared for that sort of thing. And if they fought again, I don't really know if Roxy can replicate that. So but I get you're right though. I mean, it is kind of weird.
Running anyone over.
No, she's not running. She hasn't really run anyone over as of yet, and she did lose to Sarah D'Amelio, which when it comes to getting sub, that's not really somebody that you can be ashamed of being subbed by. But I wouldn't say Sage Northcutt vibes because
I'm just saying she is even fights she should be winning easily, she makes hard on herself. She has a habit of fighting down to the level of her competition. And she is one of those people that I think Ostovich, Invicta's banking on this is going to be a star. We're building this person. We want them to win fights.
Yeah.
And I don't know that she'll ever be a champion. She might be she's got tons of time, but it just seems they may push her ahead of her ability. It may take her a lot longer to get there than people think.
Oh yeah, she's going to definitely have to be fed for a long time before she becomes champion level stuff. But she has the potential for all of those things.
Oh yeah, she's a great athlete with a great combat sports base.
Yeah.
All right, that fight we should actually have odds for, but we don't. So
God damn, you were like, "Oh, we have all the odds." No odds.
I want to, I'm running a dry hustle here. I want to I want to get people in on those tasty odds, and then I'm like, "Nope, sorry,
bitches."
Let's not be too hard. He said he had odds, not all the odds. So I mean,
I might have advertised all the odds.
Well, then in that case, you fucked up. Yeah. I try to help you. Shit. What do you want me to do?
All right. Now we got a bantamweight bout. Aspen Ladd, Sahara Eubanks. Vic, talk me through it.
All right. Sahara Eubanks is a Team Lloyd Irvin fighter, a BJJ phenom. She is really, really good. Very strong grappler. Very, very deceptively athletic. I mean, she's just really she's got something of a tank style with her grappling. She just comes forward, body lock, takedown. I mean, whichever way she pretty much wants this to go when it comes to that. She does have some problems maybe with her timing and how she chooses to strike, how to set a lot of that up. It hasn't really proven to be that much of a problem for her as of yet until, she did have that one fight against current UFC fighter Caitlin Chukagian, and I guess that kind of, showed that when you deal with someone who's got a certain degree of striking, you might be able to nullify her if you're able to keep the distance. But, she's been winning fights against people who aren't able to do so and maybe aren't able to match the same physicality or that same hard-nosed, always forward approach. Aspen Ladd is pretty much like the little kamikaze pilot they could. I mean, she's 4-0 right now as a professional, and she's put on some pretty crazy performances thus far. She's guaranteed to be exciting or at least give you a really solid finish. All of her Invicta fights thus far have been finishes. I mean, she's been really doing amazing work, and she did beat Amanda Bobby Cooper back in 2015. Very it's going to be really interesting to see how this works out because I don't really necessarily see Ladd preventing too much of the takedown. She might survive on the ground for a good while, but she's going to be banking on Eubanks to tire herself out or anything like that. That's really not going to happen. So, I'm going to go, unfortunately, as much as Invicta has a lot of hopes pinned on Ladd for what it looks like, I'm going to have to go with Eubanks on this.
All right, Dio?
I'm going with Ladd on this one.
That's right. Throw it in his face. I want to see blood.
God, so violent. Yeah, I'm going with Ladd on this one. She is ever since moving up from Well, yeah, because I think she was what, at 125 before, was it? And it just wouldn't work. Yeah, and once she stepped up to bantamweight, and it was like, oh, okay, like she was scary before. Now she's actually kind of terrifying. Definitely, I don't really want to say she's going to be the better athlete in this one because Sijara Eubanks is definitely a great aspect in her own right. But as far as like having more tools, I guess you'd say, I think I'm going to lean towards Ladd on this one. And she hits really fucking hard, like really fucking hard. So I'm going to go with Aspen Ladd on this one. I think it's probably going to go all 3 rounds. I don't think either is going to finish the other one. But should be a fun fight no matter what.
They both are strong finishers. They both finished every fight they've won so far. But that might also mean that this is the first time they've fought somebody tough enough to take it too. Yeah, it's an interesting one. Aspen Ladd reminds me a little of like Paige Van Zandt when Paige Van Zandt was just starting out and was just kind of a tank, and everybody was like, "Oh, she's gonna be this like really dynamic, fun." Like she became this has tried to be this more dynamic sort of fun fighter, but early in her career, she was really just kind of a bully. That seems a lot like Ladd's style, so I could easily see her kind of grinding this one out for 3 rounds against the cage too.
Yeah.
I see. I got a problem with that reach. I don't know. It seems to me like Ladd might have a reach disadvantage here, and I don't know if she's going to be able to work with that.
That could be too. She's a little mechanical and a little wooden, especially wading into the clinch. So if Eubanks can catch her with big shots coming in, that could be a problem. But it's a good fight. It's a fight I'm looking forward to, definitely. Odds, we do have odds finally on this fight. Ladd is opened at minus 350, is now down to minus 279 as the favorite. So opened as a heavy favorite, odds closing fast. And Eubanks opened at plus 250, now down to plus 211. So yeah, those odds opened wide and are closing in a hurry. I think a lot of people are taking underdog bets on Sarah Eubanks while the numbers are so far apart.
Yeah.
Or a few people are. I never know how many people it takes to move a line. Anyway, that brings us to a featherweight bout. Elizabeth Phillips, Leah Letson, and Dio. What are your thoughts on this fight?
So first off, this is a late edition fight on both ends. So like we've seen Elizabeth Phillips fight in the UFC. She's in tough out for no matter who she fights. Like master of none, really good at a bunch of things. So, and Leah Letson, I didn't really get to see too much on her on Tapology. She's ranked number 2 in Illinois. So, and this is, I know Elizabeth Phillips was a bantamweight prior to this, so I guess this is, since it's a late notice fight, she'll be fighting at featherweight. So, I'm going to go with the quantity that I know in Liz Phillips. Yeah.
All right.
Vic's probably going to pull so many random facts out of the depths of his anus about this one.
That's right. And I'm going to encourage him heavily because as the white minority in this group, I want to whip up a race war.
Race war.
Yeah, you're overestimating how deep my anal cavity is, but we'll address that on the post show. You're gonna love it. It's a great story. Anyway, it's funny that she's ranked number 2 in Illinois because Letson, from what I understand, lives in Wisconsin. But hey, whatever. It's whatever makes it work. Letson is currently 3-1 as a professional, and she is also 5-0 as an amateur with 3 TKO finishes. Now, very, very tough, but not a very technical game. A lot of 1-2s right down the middle, just runs right at her opponent and starts throwing those punches. But once she's able to get into the clinch, then she's able to establish her pace. She's able to start breaking down her opponent, try to get to the mount and finish with strikes as best she can. It hasn't really, she hasn't really gone for too many submissions in the fights that I've been able to see, but she's not afraid to go for them if they're there, but she's just really someone who would much rather prefer to start punching people in the face when that situation comes. So when it comes to that, at least Phillips does have her work cut out for her, because it's one of those situations where Letson's going to be pushing the pace, and she's not going to stop until the bell rings. Now, Phillips is a pretty good athlete. Unfortunately, her only win in the UFC was against Jessamine Duke, who was on a very sharp decline at that point. She does
the Edmund effect.
Yeah, that Edmund effect. I know, but she does have losses. I mean, she made her professional debut against Miriam Nakamoto. I don't know what you think was going to happen there, but fine. Then she ended up having a loss to Valerie Letourneau, and then eventually to Milana Dudieva. Then she got beat finally by Raquel Pennington. Tough out. It's a really, especially now, like in retrospect, you go, yeah, okay, that was kind of a rough run. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if this is perhaps a good thing in which Phillips can not only not have to cut down so much in weight, but also fight an opponent that isn't on as high an experience level in the professional arena. So I don't know. I still think that Letson might take this. Despite Phillips being the more known name, I think that she might be able to, number one, hold up on her end with the cardio, but also really just, keep it at a level that Phillips might not be able to really bounce back. So yeah, I'm going to go with Letson on this.
Yeah, it's tough. Phillips has yet to show that she can really, other than that Duke fight, she has yet to which even then, like pushing Duke to a decision is not the best thing. Like Duke has been losing pretty heavily lately, but she hasn't shown that she can really take over many fights anywhere. Like she's not gonna overwhelm you with her grappling ability or her wrestling ability or her striking ability, and that leaves opponents a lot to work with. I mean, that's why she lost. She was losing split decisions, because even if she's big and strong and tough, she's just not dominating any part of the fight.
Yeah.
So, and her opponent's definitely not smaller than her. Could be a tough. It's hard for me to bet on Phillips at this point, given her continual. Yeah. Odds on this fight: Phillips is the favorite, opening at -185, climbing out to -254, and Letson opening at +145, climbing to +186. So people are seeing Phillips as somebody to bet on, which I think is a mistake, betting on Phillips as a favorite.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't put her as a favorite. I'm just going with it because I don't know much about the other opponent. But like, if it came down to like putting money on it,
no.
I wouldn't put money on this one.
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't bet on this fight, and I certainly wouldn't bet on Elizabeth Phillips as the favorite in it. That brings us to a strawweight bout: Jodie Esquibel versus Callie Robbins, probably. And Vic, what are your thoughts?
This looks good, dude. This fight looks really, really good. Robbins is a Rufus Sport prospect who's coming in, and Rufus Sport is known for making pretty decent strikers out of people. She's getting there. She's not exactly where perhaps we would want some of these fighters to be, but when you're talking about somebody who's 4-0 as a pro, there has been some progression from one fight to the next. So that's going to be interesting to see. Now, Esquibel is 5-2 as a professional. She had a couple of boxing matches. We've discussed this before. It's nothing really to write home about, but she is a veteran in that regard. She trains day in and day out with some pretty heavy hitters, and she's been on The Ultimate Fighter, so she had some stuff there going on. She might end up losing this one. Robbins is not only someone who can also push the pace, but also will hunt for submissions whenever that opportunity comes, whether it's climbing like a spider monkey on her opponent's back or whether she's on her back. It's she's always going to be looking for any opportunity to finish the fight that she can, and her accuracy and her precision in certain spurts of the fight is actually pretty good. It's like she sort of has this like laser focus for certain moments of the fight, and that can really turn things around pretty easily here. So I don't think it's going to be easy. You know what? I'm going to actually I don't know how well she's going to deal with someone who can wrestle like Escobar. So I'm going to go with Escobar on that, and the fact that she's able to control a fight and turn things, in her favor there and control the fight. But I wouldn't be surprised if Robin's actually won this.
I will say probably more than anything. I mean, obviously, Roufusport gets a lot of notoriety for their striking from the Pettises and from Anthony Pettis mostly, but really, they're honestly kind of the thing they do best is turn guys into really good opportunity grapplers. Yeah. Like a lot of Roufusport fighters are really good at like when they get a small sub opening, jumping on that submission. That's kind of one of the more notable things about that camp. Anyway, Dio, what are your thoughts on this fight?
I'm going to be opposite of Vic this time. Everything that he said is true, but I'm going to go with Callie Robbins on this one. Escobar is what you call middle of the road. Like when it comes to everything that she does, everything is middle of the road. And that's not a bad thing. She's still a pretty decent fighter, but she lacks aggression a lot of the times, even in fights, even in like some of the crazier fights that she's been in, she just doesn't pull the trigger, which is what ends up losing her fights. But with Robbins, being that she is like a finisher, all of her pro wins so far have been stoppages, like I'm going to go with her on this one. It's probably going to be a sub. Because like you said, as much as people like to vaunt the, Rufus as like this camp of just strikers, he got that notoriety literally just off Pettis. Like that's a lot of, it's kind of, not like Edmund in that, there is actually some technique being taught there, but it was definitely off of a marquee fighter that they had. Like, Jackson Winklejohn, you have a whole roster of different styles. And with Rufus, it's like, okay, we had this one person that was amazing. And then everybody else just happens to be just like, ends up being submission specialist. Okay.
Well, and as we've seen over time too, Pettis's striking fundamentals are actually kind of a problem. He is a very good athlete and incredibly tough and hits hard and has great timing and all these natural abilities and is creative. But as he's lost a step, or as people have figured him out, his lack of a consistent jab and footwork and all those things have been a huge problem. So anyway, all beside the point. Odds on this fight. Callie Robbins is the underdog, opening at plus 155, moving out to plus 196. And Escobar, the favorite, start opening at minus 195 and moving out to minus 264. So if you believe the hype, then as Robbins continues to fall fall in the odds or get wider in the odds, she might be worth an underdog bet here. Because Escobar is like you say, she doesn't pull the trigger a lot. That's kind of her big problem. And when you have a fighter like that, if their opponent's aggressive enough, they can always lose a bout.
Yeah, there are times where she just sits there like, crash test dummy, and we'll just sit there and just get tagged. Mm-hmm. And that's not good, not good for your brain and also not good for your scorecard.
That brings us to the co-main event, a bantamweight bout, Raquel Pa-Louis versus Pani Kianzad. Dio, talk about
this. Is when it gets fun. So you have this is going to be exciting no matter. I don't think there's any way possible that this does not end up being fight of the night. Pa-Louis is tough as fuck. She has been in wars. She has taken people to she's fought Sarah McMahon, did pretty well against Sarah McMahon. She's had a bunch of different wars against really good people and, just hasn't been able to turn the corner on things. Kianzad is pretty dynamic striker, just a joy to watch on this one. And the better athlete of the two. Pa-Louis is definitely, pretty skilled in a lot of aspects of the game, but her lack of athleticism became very apparent in some of her previous bouts, where, she'll just get beat to the punch, and as the fight goes on, when she starts to slow down a little bit, not being as athletic, like it looks like she's punching in water sometimes. So I'm gonna go with Kianzad on this one.
All right, Vic, your thoughts?
Yeah, I do have to agree on the point that Raquel does suffer from, when she's dealing with someone who's got a degree of physicality and athleticism that's above her, that's where she really starts to struggle. And I mean, unless, the last solid win she had was back in 2015 against Edian Gomez. And I mean, I'm not sure how that's really going to translate to this year. It's been quite some time, and she is going to be fighting a different kind of fighter who, as Dio mentioned, very dynamic striker, very much not afraid to get into a dogfight here. And I think that's going to be the main thing about this fight, because you got two buzzsaws coming at each other. So this is actually going to be a lot of fun. This won't be boring at all. And I kind of worry how in the long run that's going to affect both of them, because Paului has taken a lot of damage in some of these fights. Yeah. I'm not sure how well this is going to go. It'd probably go a lot worse for Paului than it would for Kianzad. We haven't seen too much of Kianzad stateside, but if you've been seeing her fight in Cage Warriors or on the European circuit, she is really, really good. And I would actually say that she's the more complete fighter in terms of going for submission attempts and trying to chain together takedowns, things of that sort. But, man, I mean, this is actually a tough one to pick. I think that just based on how they usually fight and seeing how Paului might be slowing down a bit, I kind of think that this is something that Kianzad might take by decision here.
And the other thing, too, that we got to remember about with Kianzad is, so the last fight she had was against Tanya Evinger. And, I know I picked Kianzad to win that fight back in the day, but hindsight is 2020. And it was way too fucking soon for her to be taking a fight like that. Way too soon. So hopefully she doesn't have any, mental blocks because of that. It wasn't, a devastating loss, but she did, get dominated pretty much in that fight. So, yeah, that's another thing to remember.
Kianzad is opening as the favorite. She opened up at -270, is now down to -206. And Paului opened at +190 and is now down to +164. So those odds are getting closer as the fight nears. Little surprisingly, I mean, Paului is not bad at all, but she is definitely a couple steps slower than Kianzad, and she's not a dominating force in any part of the fight. Really gets by on being tough and powerful. She's reasonably powerful, but she's not a technical marvel anywhere. And that brings us to our main event, featherweight interim title fight, Megan Anderson versus Charmaine Tweet. And Vic, I believe this is you.
Oh, is it really? Oh, okay, cool. All right. Here we're going to have another one of these fights in which we have a more technical striker in Charmaine Tweet taking on a more powerful striker in Megan Anderson. And not only that, but Megan's really kind of blossomed into this thing where it's just terrifying to watch what she's doing to some of these women. I mean, the Amber Leibrock fight was one thing. That was pretty bad to watch. But the way she handled Peggy Morgan, and granted, yes, Peggy Morgan was also on a decline. She's expressed that she had problems with motivation and all that. And we'll take that into consideration as well. But the way that fight ended up looking, man, that was absolutely brutal. The Amanda Bell fight was another one that just it almost looked like it came out of nowhere, setting things up with body kicks and being able to string together her combinations, using her reach effectively. And the other thing is that one of the great things about watching Anderson fight is that she has one of those frames that it's deceptive to her opponents. It seems like when she lands a shot, her opponent seems to think, wait a minute, she can't be that close to me now, can she? It's like the way she uses her reach is so good that she seems like she's further out than she really is. So that's really where she's catching some of these shots and then being able to work her way inside with power. Now, she did lose her Invicta debut to Cindy Dandois. That was probably, yeah. I mean, you were fighting someone who was on something of a rebound in their career and has really serious grappling chops. She got caught up in a mistake. These things happen, and that's the fight game. So that's not something we can really hold against her. It's just a feather in Dandois' cap. But that said, I mean, this is we're seeing something really great happening here and watching this career take off. Now she's going to be taking on Charmaine Tweet, who's already fought for the title against Cyborg. Didn't go her way. She bounced back pretty nicely. She did get brutalized pretty easily, but that's what happens when you fight Cyborg. She ended up going back on the Canadian circuit to 2 fights in a row, won there, came back to Invicta. One of the best KOs of the year against Latoya Walker with a spinning back fist. I mean, there's a lot going on here. Charmaine has a lot left in the tank, and she's still a very good fighter, very good striker. Not a slouch when it comes to submission defense or takedown defense. I just don't know how she's going to be able to deal with someone who is not only young, but a far better, more well-rounded athlete and who hits this hard. I don't know. I mean, it's probably going to be a little more even in the first few minutes, but after that, I see Anderson taking off and finishing this.
Yeah. All right. Dio, what's your pick?
I'm going with Anderson on this one, too. It is, like Vic said, it's hard to see where Tweet can win this one. But then again, Tweet, it's not the first time that Tweet has fought another Amazon of a woman that is supposed to be the next best thing, because she ended Veronica Rothenhausler's fighting career as we know it, and she gave her the grown woman ass beating in that fight. So in this one, like, Megan Anderson is just like one of those freak athletes. Like, she has all the gifts that you can need. She's incredibly strong. She's got a very unique frame. Like, her reach it just doesn't make sense sometimes. Like, some of the, like, when she jabs people, a lot of times, like, she shouldn't be able to hit them from that far away, but she did it. She makes it look easy. And with that one hiccup with Cindy Dandois, she still looked pretty good in that fight up until when she made a mistake. So yeah, like, Tweet's great. She's been around for a long time, but I definitely think that this has kind of been set up as like a passing of the torch kind of fight.
She hasn't been around as long as she's had just a lot of fights. She started in 2011. I mean,
No, she was doing the Muay Thai circuit prior to that.
Yeah, like, she's been around.
Sure.
She's got, as far as combat sports go, she's got some miles on her, some city miles.
Yeah. No, I think that, I mean, the bigger thing here is you have two fighters who, Tweet's probably more likely to wrestle, but neither of them are that likely to do anything other than kickbox. And
Megan Anderson will definitely put her up against the fence, and
she'll put her up against the fence, sure, but that's not standing still. She's not going to take her down and try to submit her probably. And I think Anderson at that point, her fundamentals are just better. She's not only got the frame, but she's just a little cleaner with what she's trying to do out there.
And she is definitely who Invicta wants to. She's the next big thing, the next big person, and definitely deserves it. Like, this is one of the few times, because other times they've gotten behind people, and it's like, you probably should have thought about that just a little bit more, or saw more.
Every fight organization is guilty of that at some point.
Yeah,
it's not really anything that's exclusive.
It's the constant pursuit of needing stars to headline cards, and you got to take whoever's in front of you, because.
Yep.
That's all you got.
She definitely,
yeah.
She's got everything that she's got the looks, she's got the credentials, she's got the performances, So especially if she can, No,
we lost him.
Oh, my face! Wow, look at that.
All right, so Anderson is the favorite, opening at minus 315, now at minus 309. Not much movement on those lines. And Tweet opening as the underdog, plus 235, now down to plus 241. Any final thoughts on this card? I think those odds are.
We just froze for a second.
You froze.
You froze like this. I was doing this. I was doing this until you came back, because that's exactly what fucking froze. Yeah, like this.
Do you have final thoughts you want to explain, since I've read the odds now and we're getting ready to sign off? Dio?
Let's hope Cyborg doesn't get too long of a suspension.
I'm hoping for that retroactive TUE to come through in the clutch.
Hopefully, but if not, even though the damage to her reputation has been done.
Oh yeah,
you better stomp on that clutch with both fucking feet. Jesus, it's a tough one. But you know what? To be fair, look, I don't think I got to hear a little more about what happened before I start making it, because USADA has been on some strange, I mean, listen, yes, she's had her problems in the past and she's been guilty, but I don't know, man. I'm going to wait before I say anything regarding that particular situation.
All right. On that note, we're going to close the show. You can find me on Twitter at TheZaneTime. You can find Vic on Twitter at Vic M. Rodriguez. You can find Dio on Twitter at I'm Just Dio. That's DEO. You can find all three of us at Bloody Elbow in our various capacities: moderator, writer, editor, and whipping boy. And you can find, if you're watching this video on YouTube, rather, give it a thumbs up, the like down below. That helps us a lot. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, MMANation.com. It's TOTCOM. That helps us too. You'll get all our great shows. We won't have a 6th round coming to you this week because we will be seeding ground to knuckle up the normal Sunday night show for our post UFC event show. Then we don't have an event next week. I probably be with Vic again for, I think there's a Bellator event next week.
Yes, Sonnen versus Ortiz, I believe, is next week.
Yes, Sonnen versus Ortiz. So we'll be coming back with a Vivisection for that, and I'll be doing a MMA Depressed Us, and we'll have If I Did It and all that good stuff, Heavy Hands, the rest of it. So thanks, everyone, for tuning in, and we will see you next time.